Hi, all. Welcome. Thanks, all. If you guys want to write in the chat where you're from, how you found out about this. So since we're such a large group, we turned off chat through the whole group because with 1,000 people chatting back and forth, it would be really overwhelming. Right now, we're having a little technical difficulty. Donna is the one that usually is the gatekeeper and lets everyone in, and her computer decided not to work for YouTube tonight. So I am letting everyone in. We already have 540 something people joining us. So we love the excitement about Mahjong. Barney's already here. Barney, if you say hello, then your screen will start. Oh, actually, I have to unmute Barney.
I unmuted myself. I think it allows me to do that. Hello, everybody.
Yes.
Hello.
So Barney will be our speaker. After we do a little introductory work, we will turn over the mic to him. I am Dara. Hopefully Donna is going to be joining me in a few minutes. She's trying to get on. We are live streaming on YouTube. This is something new and different, but we really didn't want anybody to not be able to join us because obviously the new card is like, you know, New Year's Eve for us Mahjong players. And my birthday's New Year's Eve. I love having another New Year's Eve to celebrate. So yeah, we're already at almost 700 people. So we're going to give it a little time just for everybody to join us.
Be right back. I think as the host, you have the capability to mute everyone.
Yes, I keep hitting mute all, but some people keep unmuting. But thank you, whoever is. If anyone is Zoom knowledgeable, I appreciate it. I will keep muting all, and then Barney will just have to keep unmuting himself.
No problem.
Okay, so I will start again. I am Dara. My friend and business partner Donna and I started playing Mahjong together several years ago. We started a small business, and only in April of 2019, and less than a year later, everything shut down. And we knew that there was such a connection and powerfulness to Mahjong that we wanted to continue connecting everyone. So we decided that we were going to do Zoom talks and online tournaments. Our first Zoom talk, we had 24 people, and we were thrilled that 24 people wanted to talk with us about Mahjong. So tonight, the fact that we have over 2,000 people signed up for tonight on both YouTube and live streaming is a testament to how exciting we are about Mahjong, how wonderful Barney is, and how generous he is with his knowledge.
Can you hear this?
If you can,
you can hear.
I'm going to mute all. Bonnie, you'll have to unmute yourself again. So the connection that we feel through our tournaments, which we do virtually and online, and we're starting up again, we always combine Mahjong and Mitzvah. So our next tournament is going to be for the Alzheimer's Association. So if you're interested in that, please visit our website. It's modernmahjong.com. So Barney is incredibly known throughout the Mahjong world, and we're thrilled to have him conduct his card review. We're going to first play a very quick video about MahjCon. I'm not sure if every one of you have heard of, there is an annual convention that started last year, and it is. Got it. So everyone welcome. And it is a very exciting thing to just connect with so many other people that love the game. So I am going to play this. So if somebody could just give me a thumbs up if they see my screen, thank you. Enjoy.
MahjCon 2022 is at the beautiful Boca Raton Marriott at Boca Center. Relax in your room. Enjoy a light breakfast. Meet with friends in one of the hotel lounges. For the event. Evening, register. Then attend a sock cup themed jubilee where we will have a cash bar and lively music, play social games with prizes, and bid on items at the silent auction with proceeds that can make a difference and help end Alzheimer's. There will be new things to learn whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced as a player, instructor, or group leader. We'll begin the day with a welcome from our MC. Then he'll introduce our keynote speaker, followed by interactive speaker sessions. The first track is for players. The second track is for instructors. The third track is for group leaders. Two esteemed community leaders will share a few words before lunch, and after lunch we'll gather for a panel discussion. We have a special party for our VIPs. Then everyone is on their own for dinner. For those who have a desire, we'll mix and mingle at an on-site restaurant. Now it's game day with two options. Social games for those who enjoy playing Mahjong casually, and a mini tournament for those who have a competitive streak. Consider extending your stay. Take a refreshing dip in the pool. Enjoy some retail therapy at nearby shops. Appreciate the culture at the Boca Raton Museum of Art, or maybe play a round of golf. Get in some steps by visiting a breathtaking park, or breathe in the fresh ocean air and wiggle your toes in the sand. So why come? Browse exhibitor tables, reunite with friends, and make new ones. Explore strategies to improve your game, discover ways to lead a happy group, examine a new way to teach, learn to play a new version, and much more.
Just out of prison and ready to collide with an old rival in the 2021 Western, The Harder They Fall. Weapons for
Thank you for Michelle and Debbie. I'm not sure if they're on this or if they're on the live stream, but they are at the end of this. And then for people who watch the replay, they are doing a Modern Mahjong BG promo code for 10% off Mahjong. Visit mahjong.com for more information about that. So now I'll share my screen. So for those of you who are watching, if you see the screen and the people on the right, if my picture and Bonnie's picture are kind of blocking, you could just kind of use your arrow, click on that and move it away, move it to the bottom, move it out of the way. So just so you know, if you have friends that missed this, or if there's things that you want to catch up with later, you can watch a replay that we're sharing on our YouTube channel. And this is the information about the MahjCon promo. So we're going to be monitoring the chat, and we're going to be reading any emails sent to Modern Mahjong at Gmail. We'll let Barney do his thing, and then at the end, if we have time permitting, we will answer questions. If you don't get your questions answered, our Facebook group is very interactive. You could post it on Mahjong Community, and we will be happy to answer if we know the answer or get the answer for you. So the outline for tonight is Barney will review the 2022 card. If you want to follow along, the entire PDF we shared on a Facebook post. Barney will then discuss the study tips that are in his review, and then he's going to discuss already the hands of interest that people have already been frequently asking questions to us about, and in different games have come quite a discussion already. So many of you know Barney already. You appreciate his love of the game, his impeccable style, his wonderful sense of humor. Everyone knows his favorite color is orange if they know him. His annual card review is extremely helpful and interesting. Barney, thank you so much for sharing your time, your generosity, and your information with our Mahjong community. And with that being said, I am gonna stop sharing. And if everybody can make sure they're paused, and if Barney unmutes himself, then he should be in speaker view.
Can you hear me?
You are good. Great
Awesome.
shirt.
Awesome.
Love the dragon.
You like the dragons? All right.
Love
It's
it.
not exactly orange. It's more gold, but it's what I wanted to wear tonight. So first of all, hello, everyone. Some of my friends said these 1,000 people showing up tonight had nothing better to do, and we chuckled. I said, I hope I'm going to make it interesting for folks tonight. I I'm again, thank you so much for having me back this year. What a wonderful increase in the numbers from last year. So that's very exciting. And but I do need to start with a quick apology. I'm not feeling very well, and so I'm probably going to mute myself a couple of times because I'm probably going to start choking at least 3 or 4 times during tonight's session, especially when I'm speaking. But I certainly didn't want to change our plans for tonight, so just bear with me if I do mute for a couple of seconds and choke or drink some water, and then I'll come right back. So that's it. So for those of you who I've not met before, I'm a Mahjong player. I love all aspects of the game. I live here in northern New Jersey, and I've been an East Coast guy my whole life, born and raised in Brooklyn. I learned this game just about 7 years ago. Next month will be my 7-year anniversary, and everything I love everything about it. I love the game, the camaraderie, the friendships. There have been people who I've met in the last 7 years who truly have become some of the best people in my life and some of my dearest friends, and I'm forever blessed and thankful that this game has brought us together. So one of the things that I do at this, as soon as that card comes out every year.
Go up there.
Okay. As soon as that card comes out every year, I just sort of sit down and sort of, write my notes. And I was sharing my notes over the years, and people asked for me to share, and I've been sharing my notes. And obviously all of you now have a copy of it, and we're going to walk through it. I'm probably not going to walk through word for word. There are a couple of other things I want to spend some time doing, and I certainly would like to leave some time at the end if we do have time for some questions. And by the way, I'm sure for the questions that we don't get to, you could write to Dara and Donna, and they will reach out to me, and we could either jointly answer the questions at the end if we don't get to everything. But hopefully it's a fun hour for you tonight. And so let's begin. So, we all attack our mail person, waiting for this little thing to show up at the end of March. My father's birthday is March 30th, and for the last 3 years, my card has arrived on March 30th. So nice shout out to Dad. We open this up, and of course, we immediately go to a couple of things. What's the big hand? The big hand, the bottom right-hand corner, typically, although not this year. But what's the big hand this year? What are the patterns that we're going to be looking for? What immediately speaks to us? What seems to be either difficult or very, very easy? And then it begins. And then I personally literally then sit down and start going through my review. And at the end of this, we're going to talk a little bit about exactly what it is that I do in working with this new card. But when I'm done with that, I then write the article that you all have, and I'm sure is posted in the website where you could get copies of it and print it off if you want. And so let's sort of go through some of these things. The first thing I look at, used to be a couple of years back, I found a card that had more than the 9 different sections of the card. This year, again, it's the same 9 sections that the card had last year. So no difference to the actual sections of the card, which is always a good thing. There are 66 winning hands on this year's card. Last year was 67, so just about the same thing. A quick reminder, I define a unique hand, as something that is printed on the card. So for those rows where you see 2 different hands printed, I count them as 2 different hands, even though the patterns are the same. The first thing, and it's been very consistent, over the years, is whether or not we're playing a year of pong kong, or pong pong kong kong, or 3-4, 3-4, or 3-3, 4-4. And this year, we're into, as we anticipated, we're into the year of pong pong kong kong, 3-3, 4-4, which is always something to keep in mind, because whenever in doubt, and you're like, okay, I sort of remember. Of course, you're looking at the card, but it helps you quickly remember this year when in doubt, we're using 3-3, 4-4 as the standard. However, I will say this year's a little different. There's a lot of different patterns on the card this year. And while there are, 7 hands this year that are using that 3-3, 4-4 pattern, it's less than I've seen in the past. So still helpful, keep it in mind, but maybe something that this year won't be as helpful because there are a lot of other patterns we all need to get comfortable with. So that's one observation about the standard 3-3-4-4 or Pung Pung Kong Kong, which is a little bit different for this year. I think we all have favorite hands from years past, things that we like, things that we didn't like. And so I think one of the other things we look for right away is, those favorite hands or those favorite type of hands. And while I'm going to start from the very beginning and tell you I'm very excited about this card, I like what I see. I think it's going to be challenging. I think it's going to be a fun card. I think when the year is over, I'm going to say I did enjoy it. But I do know that one of the things that I was initially disappointed, I'm a math person by background, so not seeing the addition or the multiplication hands really was a small disappointment for me. It is pretty funny how people are either very prone to liking or loathing them. I had a lot of friends who say, oh my God, I'm so glad it's not back, because they didn't like the addition or the multiplication hands at all. I did like them, so I was a little disappointed to see.
Barney, sorry to interrupt. Just to back up a little bit, some of the questions we're getting is, can you just, and some people, this might be their first card ever, so can you just go over Pung Kong and when you say 3-3-4-4, and okay. a lot of the answers are on the back of the card. The back of the card is an incredible resource, and then a lot of people don't know that the Mahjong League, they don't call it a rule book, but it's their instruction book, and actually we have it on our website. It is invaluable. But for those new people that haven't got their card yet and haven't read it yet, if you could just back up.
And please continue to do that, Dara. That's very helpful.
Too. She made it.
Hi, Donna. You made it. You made it.
So one computer doesn't work, we just join.
My computer's not working.
And then the other thing is, Jackie had asked, what's multiplication addition? For not last year, but for several years before, there's usually 4 flowers, a Kong, which is 4 numbers, another Kong and numbers, and either an addition or a multiplication factor of there.
Right. So you might have seen a card that looked like 4 flowers, then 4 4s right next to 4 5s with a little plus sign in between, and said 4 + 5 equals, and then it would be, let's say, the Kong of 9s. A pair of flowers, 4 4s, 4 5s equal 9. So it was just a fun little way of saying they put a plus sign a couple of years. Sometimes it was a multiplication line, 2 times 3 equals 6. So some of the cards in the past used to do that. It did not do it last year, and it didn't do it again this year. So, and for the other question around the Pung and the Kongs, those are probably the only 2 Chinese words I think we really need to know to play the game or to even read about it. A Pung means 3 identical tiles. So if you have 3 6 bams, you have a Pung of 6 bams, and a Kong is 4 identical tiles. So if you have a Kong of 2 dots, that means you have 4 2 dots. So, and that's why I said 3 4 3 4. So the Pungs are 3s of a kind, basically, and the Kongs are 4 of a kind.
And while we're on this subject, something that I think is very helpful to think of, a lot of people know no jokers in a pair, but just a thing for new players is no jokers in anything less than 3 like numbers, or 3 like of anything, 3 like dragons, 3. So, because a lot of people see numbers together like the year or news, and they think, well, that's 4, that's a Kong. But if it's different tiles, it is not a Kong.
Exactly right. Thank you. Good. And keep me honest. Keep letting me know when the questions are coming in. That would be great, Dara. All right. So one of the things we spoke about last year, a couple of years back, sometimes when the new cards came out and we looked at the printing, sometimes there were concealed hands that were not at the bottom of each section of the card. But I think for the last couple of years, the league has been more consistent about this. So some good news again, all of the concealed hands are at the bottom of each section of the card this year. I know some people said that they get confused and they forgot, and they started to expose when in fact the hand was concealed. So good. Again, those C's, those concealed hands now all appear at the bottom of each section, which is nice. I also noticed that all of the concealed hands are 30 cents this year. Sometimes in the past, there were some that were 35, so you had to remember, or again, you just had to refer to the card in terms of which one, what the cost was. But another quick little trick this year, or thing that'll quickly, you can remember, all the concealed hands are 30 cents this year, which made it a little bit easier. I can say unequivocally that one of the biggest comments in playing a lot last year were people saying, oh my God, I want more dragons. I want more dragons. Well, I think you got them. There's a lot of hands this year on the card with dragons. Even that very special one in the winds and dragons section of the card where it's flowers and then all dragons in the 3 suits. I think that's going to be a fun hand. I have a feeling people will not be passing dragons a lot this year, because there's a lot of them to be used, a lot of hands that, use them. And in fact, every single section of the card this year has at least one dragon hand. So I think that's fun. So for those of you who like dragons, there they are. It's going to be a big year of dragons. I always vote for what I think to be the most interesting hand on the card. And interesting could mean a lot of different things, but I can tell you right now, and even for the people who play with me, they know that I've already said this, that, I'm definitely going to be looking at that in the quint section of the card, the 2, 4, 6, 8. I've always said, for whatever the reason, I think people gravitate toward 2, 4, 6, 8. I don't know why, but I play the tiles that I have, but it seems like a lot of people seem to like the even section of the card. And I'll tell you, the even hands this year, there's more of them. There's a lot more variability in that section. I think the 2, 4, 6, 8 section is just the more interesting section to me this year, which is great. I bring this up because I think we're all so familiar with those 2, 4, 6, 8 patterns that when I saw that 2, 4, 6, 8 pattern in the quint section, and it only requires the one joker, I was like, this is going to be a go-to hand. So I'm already anticipating that for me, the most interesting hand on the card this year is 2, 4, 6, 8 in quints. I think we're going to see a lot of people making that hand. And for those of you who say, I'm afraid to play quints, or I don't ever play quints, I don't ever play singles and pairs, this is a nice one. One joker and you're in. So I have a feeling we're going to see people going for that hand. It's my favorite hand on the card. I will also say, in the same way that the league really beefed up the 2, 4, 6, 8 section, I think they also did a nice job with the quint section. I think the quint section of the card this year is better than last year. I think it was just a little too difficult last year, except for the one, junk hand, so to speak, the top one, which was fairly easy. But I would say the quint section to me is more attractive. So I'm looking to play that section, if possible.
And Barney, we're going to get to this later, but are saying, can we go over later why the singles and pairs hand was moved? And also, yes. Somebody wants to know, what was your most interesting hand last year?
Yes, thank you. We are going to talk a lot about the movement of the big hand from the singles and pairs section, so we'll save that for the end. Last year was the concealed 2, 4, 6, 8 hand, which, by the way, for those of you who play with me, realize I play that a lot. That concealed 2, 4, 6, 8 hand last year is one I played a lot. And I think I'm going to play the concealed 2, 4, 6, 8 hand a lot again this year. Requires a lot of single tiles, but I think it's fun. It's got some, obviously jokers for the 8s. But I think, again, in that concealed section for 2, 4, 6, 8, I'm going to be going there. And that was my favorite hand from last year. So thank you for that question. So we will talk about the placement of the big hand in the year section of the card this year. But I'll say it now and I'll say it again later. Everyone should pay strict attention to that special wording that they put in the red letters right above the year section, right? We didn't have that last year. So if you look right at the top, exactly, thank you for doing that. Right at the top, you'll see that jokers may not be used in a 2022 grouping. Those are new letters this year. And I think specifically, perhaps due to the fact that with the use of 3 2s in those groupings, I'm sure a lot of people thought, 3 2s, that means I can use a joker. Well, not when it's actually corresponding to the reference of a year. those are thought of as distinct tiles in the year, and jokers would not be allowed. So again, good for the league for printing that extra sort of reference.
I'm sorry if you just said this, but we were asked this on Facebook. So in a hand like flower, and then the year 20 repeated several times, no jokers in that.
Right.
But it's the grouping that can't use the joker. If there's 4 flowers in a hand, you can have a joker in that.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep. Good question. Yep. All righty.
Also, one thing for the people saying they don't have their card yet, when Barney goes over specific hands, whatever, and we have a PDF and you will see the different sections of the card that relate to that. So we will get to that soon. So.
Okay. One of the things that we hear a lot of every year, and a lot of chatter on some of the social media sites, is, questions around the interpretation of the words. There are words that are printed after many of the hands. And, the league tries to do the best they possibly can to create succinct messages that help you properly play that hand. But we all know that we have a real estate issue, right? They can only get so many hands and so many notes on this card. And so there are times when they have to make decisions. How do we explain it clearly, explain it accurately, and yet still get it done in that one line? And so I know the league gets a lot of questions early on about certain hands. I think some of the ones that we're going to talk about at the end of tonight's session are some of the hands we've already seen people asking questions about, whether specifically related to the words in parentheses or just general questions. But it's so important to pay attention to the words that are in those parentheses. They tell you how you can properly play that hand, and need to properly play that hand. I will be honest. I'm going to be very honest. Sometimes some of the questions I see online surprise me a little bit, because I think of the explanation that I'm reading as being pretty clear. One of the little things I do in my mind is you have to print words. You don't always have to print words. I'm going to use an example here. You don't always have to print words, because anybody who's been playing for any amount of time knows exactly really what the hand is trying to do. The league has to print words when they want things to be what I call more restrictive versus more general. So let's take the 7 consecutive pairs on the card this year. Again, I know some of you don't have it. I apologize, but there's a hand on the card right now that's got 7 consecutive pairs. If the league just printed those 7 consecutive pairs in one color and wrote nothing, I think all of us would have known it's any 7 consecutive pairs in one suit. That's the way we read. That's the way we read hands. That's the way these hands work. But if they wanted it to be something more restrictive, such as only these numbers, you can only use the pairs 1 through 7, that is more restrictive, and that they would absolutely have to put in a note, because we wouldn't know otherwise. Okay? Or only this suit. We don't want you to be able to do it in a suit. When things get more restrictive, that's when these notes become absolutely essential. But generally, you could read almost any one of these and figure out what the league's intention for that hand was just by looking at the hand. I think the league over the last couple of years has added more and more notes, which is fine. They're clear, but they will get more questions, I'm sure, this year, just like they always do. And hopefully over time, people will say the hand printed in those colors was pretty obvious to me. Okay, let's continue. Knitters. I know a lot of people who play Mahjong are also knitters. And so one of the funny things is, years ago, I heard someone refer to the knitted hands. It's when they might have 4 exposures, and the second exposure and the 4th exposure actually match in color. Again, it was a fun hand. It was a nice way to remember dragons. And the knitted hands, again, are not on this year's card. So for those of you who have heard me talk about knitting in the past, those don't exist anymore. For example, let's go to the 369 panel. I don't know if you have it there quickly. I could show them I don't know if it's easy. If not, it's not that important. But for some people who were familiar with the knitted hands in the past, we don't have any more of them. Oh, yeah, you have Quint. Maybe we have one. Maybe one from the Quint I could steal. Let's see. The patterns have gotten so different this year that there's none that I see. Okay, here we go. 13579 that you see on the screen. Third one from the bottom. There it is. 135 dragon. The knitted hands in the past used to take the 3 and the dragon and make them the same suit. So we would say that's a knitted hand because the middle and the end dragon and in this case the pung, the 3 of a kind in the middle matched. And they were fun. They were, again, an easy thing to remember because of the knitting. Once again, there were no knitted hands. So for the knitters out there, no more knitted hand, or there's no knitted hands on the card this year either. All right. The most important thing I think, though, for me is when I first start looking at the card is how many hands have come back exactly the same. When I originally printed this document, there was a mistake, and a number of people wrote to me. So Dara and Donna, we could think about, I fixed the document and we could maybe at some point go on to your site or wherever and replace it with the right information. 7 hands, that's just a few, 7 hands came back identical from last year. That's only 11% of the card. If you went back and looked at, in my case, I've been playing for 7 years, when I looked at the 7 cards that I played with in the past, I see 44% of this year's hands on at least one of the hands for the last 7 cards. So there's definitely repetition every year that basically says, we want people to at least look at hands. They're familiar with them. It makes learning the new cards a little bit easier. But this year, again, back into this category of why I think this card is a little trickier and maybe it'll take us a little bit longer to get truly comfortable with it, is it's a smaller number of repeat hands from last year, and it's a smaller number even looking at the last 7. So I think there's a lot of studying that we have to do, and I'll talk about some of those things that I do later on. It's always a fun thing I do. I calculate the average price of a hand on the card, 29 cents and 29.7 cents is the average cost of any hand on the card this year. I basically just add up all the numbers and do the division, down a little bit from last year. The payouts, one of the things I would be very careful of this year, some of the payouts of 30 cents are not just for concealed hands. There are some exposable hands or hands that can be exposed that are also taking the 30 cents and they're interspersed into the different sections of the card. So be careful that when you go to pay out that you're paying attention to actually what the price is, because I see a couple of 30-cent hands that are interspersed within each of the sections. So just something to be a little careful about. How about the exposures that make a hand immediately dead? One of my favorite hands of all time was, I think 3 or 4 years ago, there was a hand that it was exposed, and it had 3 9s. It was the only hand on the card that an only exposed hand that allowed you to put up 3 9s. As soon as you did that, everybody knew exactly what you were doing. 3 9s was the only hand on the card. So it's always interesting for me to find certain types of hands that are either you know right away what the person's doing by their exposure, or the hand is automatically a dead hand because there is no exposure like that. And for this year, we have a couple. Now, with this year, we have a number of hands that are going to call for 2 pungs of flowers, which makes that 6 flowers. So I looked at all of the flower exposures. There are no hands this year that use 5 flowers. So if anybody accidentally puts up 5 flowers, we know that hand is dead. There are also the only hands this year that are using a pung, 3 of a kind, of the wins, those are also, if anybody puts up a pung of win, any win, that hand would also be dead because of the fact that those are only used in the concealed hands. So that's it. There's nothing else that I can detect. And if anybody else detects something, please share it with all of us. But in terms of something going up that you can immediately say that hand is dead would be the 5 flowers, or if somebody puts up a pung, 3 of a kind of any wind. Okay. This is another big year for flowers. It always seems to be a big year. There's always just, high 20s, low 30s of flowers. Same thing is true with the card this year. We have lots and lots of flower hands. Obviously, very interesting. A number of hands that are using the 2 pungs or the 2 3 of a kind. So hands with 6 flowers in it. So I think that's going to be interesting. Again, somebody putting up 3 flowers. How many hands are there? I believe there are 3 different hands on the card right now. So it's not going to be a giveaway.
Wait, hold on 1 second, Barney. Somebody just commented the second hand down in wins is 3 flowers. Wait, did you say 3 flowers or 3
wins?
3 wins. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Yep. So again, lots of big flower hands again this year. Not that unusual. My next comment I wrote, it's gone. There was only 1 hand on the card this year that had been on all 7 cards that I've ever played. The 3, 6, 9 Kongs of each of those numbers is gone. So there's no hand that's been on the card for the last 7 years. But it's close. They, instead of doing the pair of flowers with 4, 4, 4, they introduced 3 flowers and 4, 3, 4. So again, it's very similar to the 3, 6, 9, but again, you have to remember that it's not all 4s, it's 4, 3, 4, that pattern that they're using there. But that was the only hand that appeared on all 7 of the last 7 cards that they printed. Okay, how many people have experienced this? Oh my God, I just threw a tile that I thought was so safe. There are 4 of them. 3 of them are on the table and I'm holding the 4th one. How could somebody possibly be calling Mah Jongg on my exposure? Well, we knew last year what the reason was, right? The wins, the NEWS hand, the news hand from last year. I mean, they only need 1, right? They only needed 1 of those wins to call. So even if you see 3 on the table, you're holding the 4th one, that wasn't enough. You could still throw that north and somebody could still call Mah Jongg with that final north. So you think, oh my God, what are the odds of that happening? So similar to what's going to happen this year, there are many, many hands that use single numbers. And so you think you got all the 2s in your hand and all of a sudden you throw it, you can account for 4 of them, but 1 hand is only waiting for 1, 2. Again, nothing's going to be totally safe this year. I'm going to take a quick sip. There are no hands.
While you were sipping. So people are confused. You were saying that if someone exposes 3 wins, they're dead. And people are messaging us saying, oh, but this hand has 3 wins. Yes, but if they expose it, they're dead because it's a concealed hand.
Right. If they're putting it on top of their rack, they're showing you part of a concealed hand, which they can't be doing. Exactly right. So just doing a quick review in this section, and again, please, if other people find information in the notes, please, we know we're not perfect. We'll make changes, but for the north, the south, the red dragon, and the green dragon, those are the only 4 tiles that I can find that isn't used as a single tile somewhere. So you would think those would be the 4 safest tiles to discard: a north, a south, a red dragon, and a green dragon. But it turns out somebody could be, playing with 4, have 4 jokers and use that. But in terms of the only hands on the card that the only tiles that are not used as a singleton anywhere else, it's north, south, red, and green. Okay, one other thing I always do is I always look to the back of the card to see if there are any changes to the words to the back of the card. I cannot find any changes. I literally lined up the two cards. I don't see a single letter that appears to be different. But I will say one interesting thing. Everyone gets the bulletin at the beginning of the year. And one question of this bulletin that I found interesting is question 3. And question 3 says, where should I put a tile after I call for it? And as you know, there's no rule in the book that says you are not allowed to take that called tile and put it on the slanted part of your rack. There's no rule that says you're not allowed to do that. For those people who play in tournaments, you know that in most tournaments that you play in, your hand would be called dead immediately because that's an illegal move in most tournaments. But the league did say in their bulletin this year, which I thought was great, the league recommends that a called tile, whether being called for an exposure or for Mahjong, be placed on the top portion of the rack. I love that. And I don't know if that maybe says that someday the official rule will change and they're sort of easing into it nicely with us, but I was very happy to see that that question and that answer appeared in the bulletin this year. I thought that was great. So maybe some changes for the future. I don't know. But I thought it was good, and I just wanted to bring that. So, you know, everyone should try to get into the habit of calling and putting. When I teach it as if it were a rule. I said, put it on top of your rack. Never bring it to the slanted part of your rack.
And another similar thing about tournament rules, because we always make sure we answer Mahjong League rules, because tournament rules can differ. But another really good thing to take from tournament rules is, by definition, a blind pass is blind.
Yes.
If there's no penalty under the Mahjong League rules, but if you play in a tournament, you'll lose 10 points. That's
right. That's a really good one. And I actually play with a group that allows it. And I'm like, don't understand why you do it, but okay, it's your game. When I teach, no peeking on the blind pass.
So another question we got, and this is actually what you and Donna and I discussed, the north, south, red, and green are obvious that they're singles. Yes. 1 through 8 are obvious because the consecutive run, the bottom concealed hand, the 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3. The 9 is hiding in the bottom right concealed hand. There's a single 9 hiding there. So that's where the singleton is hiding. And the 8 is, and somebody said there's no 8, but the 8 would be in the bottom consecutive run hand as well.
That's right.
So, and then quickly, someone just asked when, the other question was, and I answered it in the chat, but on a lot of hands have 3 flowers and then something, and then another 3 flowers. Those are not sextets. Those are 2 separate pungs. So you could call 3. You could technically, if you don't need to use a joker, don't, because then someone's going to take your joker away. But right. You can call those as 2 pungs. And then somebody just questioned, blind pass is at the end of the Charleston, at the end of the first left and at the end, the last right. So, yeah, by definition, someone is reading the back of the card to me. Blind pass permitted without looking. So by definition, you're not supposed to look. But something Don and I say to each other a lot is a lot of times people don't read. So we really recommend. We actually have on our YouTube channel, we went through and read the card in 4 parts to everybody. And it's the same rules as last year. So it's a great, very beginning, basic 4-part video for people to watch. And once again, the bottom single 9 is at the concealed 3, 3, 6 and the singles and pairs on the very bottom right. I don't know if Barbara found that now, but that's where that 9 is. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let's move in. The second thing, the second section, talk a little bit about how do I personally prepare when the new card comes out. A couple of things. One, writing this article. Writing this article helps. All these things that I'm going through, you know, has me studying the card and looking at patterns and whatever. So just doing that helps me. I play Siamese with some patient friends. It's a great way of just playing games and just, you know, it's even more difficult playing Siamese, I think, in some ways. So I play Siamese with my friends. I play online with robots. I do play online. Mahjong Time is the normal place where I'm playing, but the real Mahjong allows you to play with robots. So I'll go on to that application and play with robots super, super fast. or super, super slow. You could take forever. There's no time limit when playing with the robots. So I think one of the best ways to get familiar with these hands is just playing online. And against the robots, you can't embarrass yourself. So next thing, I literally write down every single hand on the card. I'm a very visual person, just by the fact that I take a pen out and I write it, and I have the pen with 3 different colors. I know exactly how to write these hands out. Just writing the hands down helps me enormously. Next one, after the writing is done, I then take out a rack and I build every single hand with tiles on the rack. I just literally find them, put them up there. Again, I'm visual. I want to see those tiles on a rack, move them around, and that helps me enormously.
Interruption, Barney.
Yes.
So I think that a lot of people, and I think that's great. I remember you told us that last year, and I thought that was terrific. A lot of people, I think, who are new to the game, because I think during COVID, there's a lot of people that have literally only played on real Mahjong. And one of the funniest anecdotes of that is someone said, so is it true, do we have to line up our discards like on real Mahjong? They were playing and they thought it took so long because everyone had a line up of a clear line of discards. So some people are asking, someone just said, which is a great point, they said in the third from the bottom, the north, south, or the east, west, and we'll show it better later, but the 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, they said that could have any number as a single. And it can't because it has to be consecutive. Right. So any consecutive number, and while it's very creative, cannot start with 0 and cannot be descending. It has to start with 1. So the one, anything that ends in 3, the highest one it could start with is 7. So I hope that answered your question, whoever just asked that. Yep. Okay, sorry.
No worries. Good. Another game that I described to you last, Donna, and I was so happy when I went to Mah Jongg last time. I heard a couple of people tell me they actually do this, which made me happy. Take any hand you want on the card, find the tiles in your set that forms the exact hand of a perfect Mahjong, turn them upside down on your table, mix them up, get rid of 7 of them, and replace those 7 that you got rid of with 7 new tiles from the bag, okay? And why do we do this? Because now I'm going to have 14 tiles again. 7 of those tiles I know work toward a valid Mahjong. The other 7 maybe helped, maybe hurt, maybe did nothing. Now turn over those 14 tiles and figure out how you're going to play that hand. And the good news is it should be a good set of tiles, right? Because 7 of those tiles, you know, at least go toward one really valid and good Mahjong. And it's just, again, the visualization of, you know, it's not like it's completely some 14 random tiles that, oh my God, maybe 3 or 4 tiles get to Mahjong. These hands are so good because 7 of them, 7 of those tiles, you know, are halfway toward a Mahjong. And I think it's a good way to start and practice. So start with 7, a real Mahjong, start with 14, a real Mahjong, replace 7 with 7 new ones, flip them around, and see if you can discover where that original Mahjong was. All right. The other one, I'm going to scare you a little bit. This is the true math nerd in me. No one can really see this, but
do we want to see it?
This is my grid that helps me identify every set of patterns that are even viable with this year's card. And you put basically all the rows and all the columns, and you start filling out. You read the card, you check off the box that says green and red. You check off the box that's got a 1 and 2 in a row with consecutive numbers. Once you're done with this, all the empty boxes tell you, wow, there's no hand on the card that does that. Or this hand only shows up once. So this is a lot of work. This is a new thing for this year. Maybe at some point I'll write an article about this, Dara and Don, if you want it.
Yeah, of course. We got an email actually saying, does Barney figure out the percentage of 1 suit hands, 2 suit hands, 3 suit hands? Does he figure out the percentage of wins and dragons? So,
I haven't done that yet. And I'm so sorry that I can't think of her name, but I don't know if she signed in today, but there's a lovely woman on Facebook who she's a mathematician like me.
Mathematician, and there's a gentleman named Chris who last year did a PDF of every single combination. He said he's very busy with work, but he's going to try to get it to us.
Okay, good. Because she pointed out, which was very interesting, she pointed out that this year, even though the hands, I think, are a little bit more complicated, the number of viable hands this year it's over 900. And last year was only around 750. So the actual number of viable hands that can be played, basically we're talking about combinations of different suits and what they've done every single, so it's even more this year. So I do that. And then finally on my iPhone, when I have nothing better to do, I have pictures of the 3 panels on my iPhone. And if I'm waiting for a bus or waiting at the doctor's office or waiting for traffic at a red light, I maybe quickly flip on and study my hands using this.
And just so you know, we are not associated with any of the apps. We just like sharing when they all updated. So every time they update, they email us and we post it. One of the apps, which is really a great device in line with the Mahjong practice app, because that's the one app you don't need Wi-Fi. And what it does is you put in your tiles and start playing. And then if you want, it gives you suggestions with how far away you are from hands.
Yes, that's right.
So that's something that's very helpful to learn the card. And then another thing that he came up with is the American Mahjong Defense app, which you look at exposures and guess what other players are playing, which I think is a wonderful way to up your game. And I think this card is going to be very hard to figure out what everyone's playing.
That's right. Yes.
And by the way, we're doing a giveaway. So you can win one of 10 of those defense apps if you go to our Facebook group and enter. Great. So
yeah. Yep. Yes. Great. That's
so we have
great.
10 giveaway.
Nice.
So,
okay. So I think we're ready to move into the last section, which is to take a look at some of the hands that have already started to make their way into social media as people having lots of questions about them or observations about them. So Dara, Donna, myself, we decided let's end this session tonight with let's take a peek at them and see what, I'll make some comments and Dara and Donna can make comments too. And you could ask questions if you want. Are you ready to go?
Ready, but before we do that, can you post on Facebook Mahjong Community tomorrow or email us what the 7 same hands are from last year?
Oh, yes, sure.
Okay.
Yes.
And then 3 other questions. And if you want to get to this at another time, that's fine. Can you go over joker etiquette? How to exchange a joker?
Oh, boy. I think we might maybe we need to get another session together.
Okay.
How about
I'll do my elevator pitch of joker etiquette. You're not supposed to touch someone else's tiles. You are supposed to present it to them and in a lovely way say, "May I have that?" Or you could say, "Lucky me," or you could say, "Here I go." But basically you hand them. And the whole reason is if someone takes a tile and puts it on your rack to take the joker and you don't realize they put a 6 crack and you have 6 bams, guess what? They have no penalty and your hand is dead. So, but we can have a whole other thing. And I won't even tell you that you've been asked about the slapping rule. So that we can do a post on that. A lot of people have been asking in the chat. A lot of people are learning about how it's not next in line that gets the tile, that it's whoever exposes.
Oh, the slamming, not slapping. Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm sorry, slapping is on the mind.
I was wondering what that was. Okay.
You're wrong, Darren.
So the slamming rule. So, and then the last thing is, and this is something that you actually have done a entire blog post about, which we could reshare, and whoever, there's so many chat messages. So if you could email us at modernmahjong@gmail.com if you want it. Somebody asked your top 3 tournament tips, which I know you've done before, so we can email that to them.
Yeah, send them the whole, or post somewhere the whole document.
Okay, so with that being said, I am going to share the screen because we took some pictures. Okay, so here is the first panel.
Right.
And obviously this is a copyrighted document. We're sharing this for instructive purposes, not for reprint. We know everyone's going to buy their card. So the first panel is where we see the big hand.
Right, the big hand, which ordinarily would have been the last hand, would have been the last hand printed on the card in the singles and pairs section. It carries the 85 cents, the most expensive. And by the way, a lot of people have already said they think it's worth a lot more than 85 cents. I think this is going to be a very, very difficult hand to make this year. You know what? We need three of each of those natural twos. So we need 9 natural twos. I think this is going to be, very, very, very difficult. And I again, not speaking for the league, my hunch tells me is they just moved it because it is a year hand. They just moved it to the year section of the card. They put in the special extra red letters to remind us that, for example, see those dots, those 2 dots, you cannot use a joker in there, even though you'd say, well, there are 3 of them. Why can't I use a joker? Because it's a year. It's something that's telling us it is a year grouping, and hence no jokers used in the year grouping.
So just to hone in on that, in the last hand that's concealed, that's 3 suits, no jokers at all, that's singles and pairs. The 85 cents accounts for how hard it is. You don't double if you're jokerless.
That's right.
You double if you're self-picked. However, in every other hand in that group, you can use a joker. You can use a joker in the greens, the reds. The second one you could use in every exposure. The third one you could use in the flowers and the twos. And the fourth one you could use in the easts and the wests.
That's correct.
So
that's right.
Because I know that was that sentence is confusing to people. So here is.
But for example, let's so maybe a good thing to keep in mind. Can we look at that panel one more time? I don't know if it. Okay. Mm-hmm. The one that actually shows me the card.
Yeah, I'm going.
Okay, there we go. In the first row, in the first hand, the 2022, that is a year grouping. So no jokers in that grouping. The jokers could be used with the greens, the jokers could be used with the reds, but in that year grouping, no jokers.
Right.
Okay, let's go to the next one.
Okay. So this is for the quints, the consecutive run, and the 1, 3, 5, 7.
Yes.
9 is the first one.
I think one of the ones I know we want to talk about is the third one down.
Mm-hmm. I think first we were going to do
he's like, and then one of the trees died. He replaced her.
I think if somebody could be muted.
Like, oh, okay. And then he's like,
somebody has to mute.
Rona.
So
you got to mute, Rona. Silverberg.
No.
Okay.
No. Okay. Okay.
Is this the year or not?
The top one. The top row was with 5 dragons. Oh, look. Well, you guys did a nice job. Look at the nice job you've done. So you did the 5 dragons. Obviously, you have to have a joker to complete that. There are 3 norths or 3 of any winds. You could pick any winds. You can or cannot use a joker. And you nicely demonstrated here, using different winds. They all have to be the same. Any number. And here's where, again, we go back to the words in the parentheses. Any dragon, any wind, any number. And if you use the analogy that I said before, where if they wanted you to really think to make something more restrictive, I think some people have asked questions about, does the dragon have to match the number? No, that would be more restrictive. They would have had to spell that out for us and said, dragon number match. They didn't.
For this one, so since it's all in one color, on Tom Sloper's initial review, he said the dragon and the suit had to match. No. So a very astute member of our Mahjong community wrote us and said, can you explain that? Like, why do they have to match? Doesn't the word... So I always read it as the parentheses overrides the color.
Yes.
So on his website, from 2004, he explained a very similar hand, and Don and I sent it to him, and he said, you are correct. That is the precedent of the league. If it says any dragon, wind, number, the only way they could have made it clearer is if they said any dragon, any wind, any number, any suit, but they're really limited on space. So,
right. They could have said any, right, exactly. But
some people see blue, and I think it's Andrew Keeler might have said, like if they did the card in purple, brown, and silver, then maybe people wouldn't think that blue is dot. Like I think people automatically think blue and think it has. So that's why for the top line, we did green and bam, because that's not blue, you know, just to match. So.
Good point. Great. Very nice. Very nice.
Okay. So
the third one is the one that actually has been on the card before. I have not asked the league this question yet. I don't really know what answer they would really have. I think 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, this hand was on the card. It looked just like this, but when they printed the card, they put a space between the pair of ones and the pair of twos. I don't know why this year they didn't put the space. Again, I don't really see how that really matters very much. So if people were asking questions about space or no space, I would say, I don't know, but I don't see how it's at all relevant. They're printed in the same color ink. They tell us it's any 3 suits, any 3 consecutive numbers. So to me, pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So just the reason, I mean, obviously you're not going to have 18 tiles on your hand, but we just put the 4 and the 5 next to each other and separate, just to show that they're really either, some people would call it 2 sets of pairs pushed together or 4 singles pushed together. In any event, the 1, 1, 2, 2, whatever number it is, cannot use a joker and can only be called for Mahjong.
Correct. All
So
right.
here is the right panel. And this is where we have a Great Winds and Dragons section. I know a lot of people were told that there's dragons, 3, 6, 9, and singles and pairs.
Yeah.
Well, we already have a question on that.
Okay,
the printing on this first one, we're going to do the ones. The printing on the fourth one down was interesting to me. Again, this is an issue of real estate. If they had more real estate, I bet they would have printed 2 different rows for this. They would have said, you know, they could, you know, here it is showing you an even number. Here it is showing you an odd number. They typically have done that in the past. But again, they said, well, it's real estate. We don't have that much space. We'll just put it in the words. Any, like, odd, or even numbers, right? So these could be 4s or these could be 3s. As long as the numbers are the same number at the beginning and the end, we're good. And my hunch tells me is this, in the week of playing, this is going to be a popular hand.
This hand and the flower with 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, dragon, dragon, dragon.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But this one in this section, I think this is going to be another go-to hand, which again is why I think my prediction is people will be reluctant to pass wins in the Charleston.
Yeah.
Because of that hand. Okay. I like these. This was sort of, I think, super creative. I really liked what they did here with this hand. So, and again, on this one, they did decide to print on 2 separate rows, right? I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah. So the first row, they told us about the norths and souths, 1, 2, 3, a singleton, a pair, and a pung, and then east and west. And again, there was nothing about odds or evens. So, you know, but they printed on 2 separate rows to differentiate, to prevent having to write a longer sentence. The norths and the souths have to go together, or the easts and the wests have to go together. Right. And then you have the 3, 4, 5, or any 3 consecutive numbers.
So it has to start with 1, and the highest it could start with is 7, and it can't include a 0.
Right. So for people who are wondering why, because if you started with the 7, you're going to end with the 9. 7, 8, 9. You can't start with 8. It would be impossible. So yes.
Okay, wait, we have a question already.
Okay, which one?
No, on the last. Let me see, in the singles and pairs.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
7 pairs, do they have to be the same suit?
Yeah.
Yes. Again, it's printed in the 1 color ink. And my mind is always, that's the broadest, you know, that's the easiest way of thinking about it. If they wanted us to say only 1 suit, then we would have had to have seen some words in those parentheses. But again, it's printed in 1. It's got to be 1 suit, but it could be any of the 3 suits because it doesn't tell us otherwise.
And on the back of the card, first it talks about what run, pair, pung, con. It says 1 color equals any 1 suit, 2 color equals any 2, 3 colors any 3. So that's just their, you know, a lot of times people, and especially actually in the beginning, now I can go back to some of the questions we got in the beginning. So people were looking at the 2022 with the twos, or they were saying, does the flower, the third hand down into it, does that have to be BAM? And it does not. That's just an example of that you need 3 suits.
Correct. That's right. Yep.
But technically, if you have those, you could put the 0 anywhere. But
right. Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
So, so for that, I'm going to go back to the chat for a second and just see. We did etiquette. We talked about the app. So everybody appreciates the Math Nerds Unite, and they would love your worksheet. So let's see. They emailed us that.
That's interesting.
Do we have another question?
No, it just said, just received my 2022 Mah Jongg card. I'm wondering why the card has been substantially reduced in size.
They might have ordered the wrong size.
They probably ordered the wrong size, or the smaller card. There's 2 sizes that you can order. The price difference is $1. So maybe they checked off and didn't realize they checked off the smaller card.
But I would have preferred to pay the extra $1 for a large. I think we're going to do a post.
Just taking a picture of an old card,
the standard and the large, and show the difference.
So people are asking how they order the Mahjong Made Easy book. That's on modernmahjong.com. You could order directly from us if you want. They're asking where they can get your notes. So we already have it on Facebook. If you're not on social media, feel free to email us. Whoever, just right here, here, mute all. Barney, you might have to unmute yourself. Whoever doesn't have social media, they can definitely just send us an email and ask to be on our email list, and we can send them that.
Where's Barney?
No, Barney knows how to unmute himself.
Okay, good.
And then now I'm just going to go back for
I wanted to add just one thing that I included this in my note, but you know, the league takes our feedback and anybody's feedback. People have the ability to write to the league. People don't know this, but you know, the league takes suggestions. People could send in suggested hands if they want. And I just think from what I'm seeing in this this week that I've had the card, I think I'm really liking it. I think the league has done a really nice job of making it even more maybe creative. At least, again, for someone who's only been playing for 7 years. So hats off to the league. I think they did a nice job with this card.
And to do it remotely during a pandemic.
I was just going to say, people have to understand this was done during COVID, where people were not working in the physical office. So it's a lot of work. There was a paper shortage, supply chain issues. So,
and then one other thing is the league, if you pre-ordered, especially if you pre-ordered from us, or if you pre-ordered from a charity or from the league, we posted the dates, like they stagger the shipment. So if you pre-ordered from us or the league by February 24th, your card was mailed March 28th. Unfortunately, the league cannot control the post office. Last year, I got mine before Barney's event. Donna, I had to borrow one from me. She didn't get it until 5 days later. So we understand people are frustrated. We spoke to the league today. They said, please give it some more time. If they do not get their card by Monday the 11th, to please call them, let them know. They will look in their files. They will see if somehow the card was bounced back. And if not, they will look into sending them a replacement card. So please, just a little patience. I mean, you know, I know to us it's more than a game, but David Unger was saying to us, like, it's a game, you know, please have patience. And then the other thing we just wanted to share, hold on one second. Yeah, so let me just go forward. Okay, so here, this was what we shared in the beginning, MajCon. So you will get to meet me and Donna. We're speaking, Barney, Andrew Keeler, Zach Lovell will be talking about another style of Mahjong. Darren Burness will be speaking, Stacy Butkowski, Teresa Benassi, and the hosts are Michelle and Debbie. I know a lot of people know them from what they do in the Mahjong world. So the promo code is Modern Mahjong BG for 10% off if you're watching this live, or if you're watching this later on YouTube.
And just, this is only for people that are here tonight or watching on YouTube. They did it for us. They don't normally give a discount.
Right. It's valid through April 13th. This is just to tell people about our tournament. This is something that got a lot of people through the pandemic, just connecting online. What really makes us proud is that some people that we connected are still playing Unreal Mahjong together or Mahjong Time together. So you could play online or you could play in person and then submit your scores to us to win prizes. So you could find out details on our website. These are 2 more talks that we're getting into strategy. I know Donna Miller Small, a lot of you were asking about the slamming, not the slapping. She is opposed to this. Actually, both Michelle and Donna will probably love to talk about that with you. So Donna Miller Small's talk is on April 24th. Michelle's is on May 4th. You could register for both of those. We have the giveaway contest. This is the Mahjong Defense app that was updated for 2022. You can go to the Facebook post that is going to be live at 9 o'clock tonight, I think, or maybe we'll make it as soon as this is over. Just tell us what the favorite thing you learned from Barney tonight, and we're going to pick 10 winners. Oh no, this you just have to comment your favorite place to play.
Right.
If you tell us your favorite thing you learned from Barney tonight, we're going to be giving away a set of Mahjong magnets on our Facebook page. So we invite you to do that and enter. And when COVID hit, our business was an in-person business, and we really thought that, we couldn't just stop and throw in the towel. We really wanted to connect our Mahjong community, and we're thrilled with how many people just love the game, and we appreciate everybody's support. And I will stop the share there.
We also appreciate your patience on Zoom, because my Zoom wasn't working a few blocks away. I ran over here. Sometimes there's mix up, but we try to get everybody in. If not, it'll be on our YouTube channel.
And everyone named Bonnie, who I made co-host, thank you very much.
Bonnie.
Barney, and Bonnie, and Dara and Donna.
But this can be watched again on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Modern Mahjong. And you can watch it as many times as you want. So
we have follow-up questions for Barney, and he's great at getting back to us. So we will share those in posts. And it's really going to be a great year, great hands. So
yeah, well, we appreciate it, Barney. Thank you.
Feel better, Barney.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Have a great night.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. You guys could unmute yourself and say bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.